Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who picked Dave Pee Wee Herman to defeat Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira because Jiu-Jitsu does not work on Dave Pee Wee Herman. And I'm here to talk about Alexander Hernandez versus Damon Jackson, the co-main event here. This one could go either way, as is the case with every fucking fight, but I am going with Alexander Hernandez winning via knockout early. But I will be betting both ways. Hernandez via knockout, Damon Jackson via finish down the stretch, although I have to see what the props look like. Damon Jackson is much more of a submission artist than he is a knockout artist, but Alexander Hernandez, typically when he loses, it's by knockout over submission. Hernandez has lost 6 times, twice by decision, and that was to Bill Algeo and way back when to Jamal Emmers. And then he's lost 4 times by finish. Once by submission, 3 times by knockout. Billy Quarantillo, Drew Dober, and Donald Cerrone TKO'd him. And the one submission is the Renato Moicano. Rear naked choke. What else? But all 4 of those finish losses take place in round 2. That's no coincidence, especially if you've seen the fights. Alexander Hernandez is a great hammer, but not a great nail. And when the tide turns, mixed in with a little cardio issue, he doesn't make the best nail. And I think most of the fights he loses will be finishes. And I will play Damon Jackson winning by finish here. And it will be a bet against the cardio of Alexander Hernandez. But the pick and the primary bet is Alexander Hernandez. First of all, I mean, I don't know how he's made 145, but he's going to have to make it again. And he's definitely the bigger guy used to fighting at lightweight. So assuming there are no issues there, which is not a fair assumption at all, I do think he is too physical for Damon Jackson. Just too strong. I think he hits harder, and I think he's a tougher guy to wrangle, which is something Damon Jackson's going to need to do. Damon Jackson is a guy who is dependent on his top game. He's got some knockouts, and even when he took out Pat Sabatini on the ground with his top game, he still knocked him silly first before that. But I think him hurting Alexander Hernandez would still be a big surprise to me. And I'm thinking Alexander Hernandez is able to dictate the fight with his physicality advantage. And Alexander Hernandez, he's a guy that when he arrived on the scene, he got some beautiful wins. His best wins were his first 3 UFC wins, knocking out Beneil Dariush and then winning decisions against Francisco Trinaldo and Olivier Aubin-Mercier. That was his second win in the UFC. And Hernandez was bullying him. That guy's an excellent fucking wrestler, Olivier, who just retired as a fucking multimillionaire. But yeah, the pick is Alexander Hernandez, and I do think if he was to win, it would be by knockout. His knockouts in the UFC are all round 1. Dariush, Mike Breeden, Chris Gritzmacher. Maybe not all the best competition, but even though Damon Jackson's a better fighter than most of those guys, he's still probably got a worse chin than most of those guys. Damon Jackson's been knocked out 4 times. Dan Ige got him out of there last year, and before that he was knocked out with a flying knee to Movlid Habulayev in the PFL. Kevin Aguilar in the LFA, I think, knocked him out in round 3, and he was also knocked out by Ilya Taporia. So some killers there, but chin is a chin, and it's his biggest weakness. He has also been defeated by submission. He lost. He should have lost to Hani Jason, but the fight was overturned. Or maybe he shouldn't have lost. I don't know what he tested positive for, but definitely he was tapped there. And he was also tapped to Yancy Medeiros with a guillotine choke. And he's got 1 draw, and I was there when he fought Levon Makashvili. But I just wanted to let you know I was there. But look, I like Damon Jackson. I think if he does survive, he's the better man down the stretch. I don't know if he has the physicality to impose himself on Hernandez and give himself these submission options, but he's definitely the better man down the stretch. So I'm picking Alexander Hernandez, but I'll be betting on both guys. Hernandez by knockout and Hernandez to win flat. I think his money line is enticing enough, but definitely Damon Jackson winning down the stretch. Probably just a flat finish, because Hernandez is more likely to be TKO'd than submitted, even though Damon Jackson's much more likely to submit you than TKO you. So it'll just be a bet against the cardio. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit, and check out my other videos.